Preparing to live stream. This meeting is being live streamed. Got it. Setting up your meeting, redirecting to YouTube. Preparing to live stream. This meeting is being live streamed. Yeah. Got it. Amazing. Setting up your meeting, redirecting to YouTube. Preparing to live stream. This meeting is being live streamed. Yeah. Mute. Right. Cool. So yeah, the YouTube live stream is a couple of seconds behind us, but all good. I think with that in mind, we shall begin presently. Let's just hit that. Redirecting to YouTube. Amazing. Right. Bear with me 1 minute, please. Chris from Wrightune.
No problem.
Quality. Okay, so I'll record this as well, just in case things don't work out on YouTube with regards to the upload afterwards. But I will start today's inaugural Ask the Expert live by saying a big hello to Chris from Wrightune. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. It's good to see you. Hello, everyone.
I'm loving the Christmas hat, by the way. You're getting into the festive spirit over at Wrightune by the looks of it.
There's such a laugh over here.
It's great. It's great. And so behind you is a mix of air and water cooled cars as well, which is good, but considering the questions that we can be talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've got 916 C4S up there, and then a little bit of a 2.7 hot rod. I don't know, there's another little. If you can see, the little air cooled engine we've been working on today.
Oh yeah, that's looking mint.
Yeah, it's all right. So
yeah.
See, with 964 pounds pressure fed potential upgrade, and yeah, it's gone up 3.2, so short stroke, so a bit bigger. So the standard's like 95 mil, so you get 98 mil.
Yeah,
and we put some higher compression pistons in it to give it a bit more zip.
Bit more zip. Nice. We're liking it indeed. I want to say to everybody as well that's joining in, whether you're watching this live on Nineworks TV or you're catching up on Nineworks TV, a big hello to you. So Ask the Expert Live is a new series that we're going to be doing on Nineworks TV, particularly over the winter months. The cars tend to go into hibernation, but that doesn't mean our enthusiasm for these amazing sports cars goes into hibernation as well. So it's a chance to get up close and personal, albeit via the medium of YouTube, to various experts around the industry. And that's why, Chris, I'm really, really grateful that you guys at Wrightune are taking up the position of like inaugural guest for Nineworks TV. It's worth pointing out for people, in case they don't know, that you guys are an award-winning family-run business based in Oxfordshire in the UK. You actually won Best Independent Porsche Servicing at the 2022 Nineworks Awards. So that's, you know, a mark of your expertise, professionalism and diligence that has been rewarded by a panel of experts as well as customers. So yeah, you know, we think highly of you here at Nineworks, and clearly the enthusiast community does too.
Well, thank you very much, and I do really appreciate it. So thanks to obviously you and everyone that voted. But yeah, it was a very special moment for me. So yeah, it was good. It was very, very good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll continue to keep, you know, trying to provide the best service that we can for everyone, and also got to help, like, thank all my partners and part suppliers as well, because without them it wouldn't work as well. So yeah, everyone is yeah, there's a lot of love there. Is what I'm trying to say. So thanks a lot.
Yeah, so you're a humble man, and yeah, you know, I'm chuffed that you guys look after my 996, and I'll be there next week, of course, when we're doing a few more bits and pieces for Little Irish. People will be able to catch up with what exactly is going on in a video soon. So with that in mind, Chris, we'll dive straight into the questions. It's worth pointing out to people watching from home or your mobile or wherever you are on planet Earth, we've got some questions that people have already submitted for Chris to answer. These are Porsche technical questions. We put out via a Nineworks newsletter a couple of weeks ago that this would be an opportunity coming up. People submitted questions from there. If you want to get involved and have these questions submitted early doors for next time, make sure you sign up to nineworks.co.uk and toggle on to receive newsletter comms. We don't send out any marketing gumph. It's all decent editorial and everything that we feel is going to help you immerse yourself in your Porsche enthusiasm. Okay, so it's always worth receiving those newsletters, and this was one such opportunity. If we've got time, and we said we'll do half an hour-ish, we'll see how we go, but if we've got time at the end, there absolutely will be scope to ask any questions from everybody watching. So in order to ask a question, just pop it in the comments below. I'll keep an eye on that while we're having a chat. Okay, but first of all, Chris, then we'll kick off with question 1 if you're ready.
Ready and waiting.
Amazing. Okay, so NineWorks member John Gregory has asked, what's reasonable oil consumption for a 2003 996 Carrera cab? I don't think the cab is the crucial element to that story. But yeah, John says, I'm using around 1 litre per 1,000 miles. There's no obvious oil burn from the exhaust, no bore score symptoms. There is a slight weep from the RMS, but not enough to drip onto the floor. The RMS, IMS and clutch were changed at 50,000 miles, with the car now at 80,000 miles. So yeah, good intel on there, John. It's a great question. So Chris, what is reasonable oil consumption for a 996 Carrera?
Well, obviously, depending on age and mileage, mileage more, the more the engine's been run, more likely it's going to be worn. With worn rings, you'll have oil going past the rings and things like that. And it will there will be some oil consumption, but really you should really have very little. If you're doing like 5,000 miles and then you're doing like maybe have to put half a litre or a litre, I wouldn't be as concerned. But obviously it's going somewhere, it's burning it, it's leaking it. Now, what he's described, I just if it's using a litre every 1,000 miles, it's got a serious problem, unfortunately, and I can't believe it's not stored bores. Because it's always going somewhere and it's not going on the floor, because that amount would make a mess, and all under the cars. And he's saying he's not. It's common to have a small weep from the rear main oil seal area. They redesign the rear main oil seal like 11 times, and you can sometimes fit a brand new one and still have aggro. So it was a pain in the ass for us lot, working on them. I'd say you'd need to look again and check, because it must be burning it. Check the tailpipe, see if they're black. It's usually the left hand one, because it normally goes on the right hand bank. I don't know. Yeah, I just can't believe it's not that. So I know it's not very good, because you said it hasn't got any symptoms. You could do a bore scope inspection, but most of the time you're wasting your time, because it's very difficult to see what's discernible where, or if it's just if it's got a scoring. And we personally don't take 996 engines apart. We have done in the past, but the close with Hardtech, we send our business there if that happens, if we need an engine done, and they're of the same opinion. And as they've got basically a factory doing M96 engines, you've got to take it from people who are doing it day in, day out. Yeah. So yeah, not like, I'd just say you need to probably get another opinion of where the oil's going. I mean, that would be my opinion. I'd have to double check that it's not got scoreboards, because it's screaming scoreboards, that symptom. Okay. And I don't know if there's any ticking or knocking, but usually they don't. They can't do it. I mean, and it may not see any smoke, but it must be doing something. It must be going somewhere, and it's quite a lot of oil to lose. If it was going somewhere else, like into the coolant or something, you'd have other problems. But also, a litre going in every 1,000 miles, you're going to be overfilled. Yeah,
it is quite a lot. And yeah, it sounds like further investigation needed there. So thanks for the question, John. That's a great question to kick off. Question 2 we've got from Terry Pavlis. He says, I own a 997 Gen 2 GTS. That's a cracking car, cracking 911. Recently, it has developed an odd metallic rattle from the exhaust mufflers, which disappears when the sport button is pressed. I've had the back boxes opened and re-welded internally, but this has not cured the problem. My cure is to unplug the system from the top of the engine bay so that it is always in sports mode. Do you know of a fix, or is my only solution new mufflers? Sounds like that could be, but
yeah, well, new mufflers will fix the problem. I had a look. I think they're about £900 each plus VAT, which is not that horrendous in Porsche terms, but what it probably is there's like a round butterfly that turns, and that makes it loud and quiet effectively. And that probably on the spindle, I should imagine it's become loose or there's a problem there. Now, if you've got a clever fabricator and engineer, I don't see why they can repair that bit of it. But I've personally never done that. And like you said, it will always default into sport mode. So if you pull it off, the loom off, it will always sit there. So it's obviously a short-term fix, so it doesn't drive you crazy with the rattling. But yeah, I'd say go and speak to a specialist exhaust company such as like Ryan Edwards at Vista Heritage. Explain the problem, because they might say, look, done this before, you'll spend a fortune, it won't fix the problem. Or like, yeah, I've done loads of them, I've got the valves and everything, and I can weld a new one in, sorted, and it's going to cost 500 quid, which is better than £2,000 plus fitting. So yeah. I would ask the question, but I would have definitely thought it's that butterfly that's rattling.
Yeah, brilliant, Chris. That's fantastic. Just on the comments, Arlen Axelrod says hello from Canada. So hello, Arlen. Thanks for joining us from across the pond. We'll press on to question 3. This is Kestas has emailed in. He said, I am driving a 997 Gen 2 C4 GTS this time, so 4-wheel drive 997 GTS. The headlights of the car are not as bright and sharp as the modern alternatives. As it has to do with safety, I would be keen to substitute them with a modern alternative without impacting the looks of the car in a big way. I read on some forums that the headlights of 991 GT3s fit well into 997.2. My challenge is that my headlights are dynamic, i.e. they turn with the turn of the steering wheel. What replacement would you do if this was your car? So Kestis, I think really there is looking to improve the lighting options on his 997 GTS.
Yeah, I haven't been asked this particular question before. I don't know if like a 991 light is going to fit into a 997. I'd find it very unlikely that it will fit, like all the plugs and things work. There is a company, this doesn't help this gentleman, but there is a company called Nordlight, and they make a replica of the 991 style, and they go straight in. One of our customers has got that, but that only works for Mark 1 997, not Gen 2. You could get a HID kit that if you want to improve it, or just put you can just get better bulbs initially, and that would be a cheap thing to try, unless you specifically want the look of that light. But I don't know of a product on the market that would do what you're asking it to do with the dynamic lights as well. I'm sorry, I don't, but I don't. That doesn't mean people won't. But I have had a search, I can't find anything. So you could initially try with some different bulbs or put in a xenon light kit making, but I would have to check with the supplier if that is going to work with your dynamic lights.
The dynamic option definitely adds a layer of complexity to that. But it's a great question, Kestis, because I think lighting is pretty good on 997, but it's not very good on 996, particularly Gen 1, my car. It's and I think any 911 owner before 991 really will kind of understand the problem of driving at night. It's a bit like driving with a couple of candles at the front of your car rather than some headlights. So completely understand what Kestis is saying there, because these cars are capable of driving so quickly. It's imperative that us as drivers are able to see where we're going, because we're going to be there in a second. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, good point. Vision is very important. I've always been one for, even when racing stuff, I'm really anal. Some people go, the visors all covered in crap, and I always have them immaculately clean, all the windscreen, so I understand it. It's frustrating. My personal daily is the lights are awful, like glowworm's armpit, I can't see it. I don't know where I'm going.
Okay. So it's a good question, Kestis. So we might need a bit more time to delve into that one. Next question from Mike Buckley. And again, if you're just joining us live and you've got some technical questions for Chris at Wrightune here to answer, just pop them in the comments and we'll do our best to answer them before the end of the live. Question 4 from Mike Buckley. I have a 2002 996. I've always struggled with emissions in the 4 years I've had the car. Before and after fitted 200 cell cats. Now it will not pass and throws an EML P0420 regularly. The car runs fine otherwise, no misfires or any other engine management lights come on. A lot of fault finding has resulted in cylinder 1 being down, about 2 bar in a compression or leak down test. Could this be the cause of the emission failure? What are the possible causes? Mike is suggesting it could be bent valve or broken rings. There is no oil in the coolant.
Did he say one cylinder, or did he say cylinder 1 or one of the cylinders?
A lot of fault finding has resulted in cylinder 1 being down, about 2 bar in compression.
All right. Okay, well, that makes sense. So, yeah, there's lots of things it could be with that fault code, but you'd be wasting your money trying it all, because it's almost certainly because of that problem, because that code is a problem with bank 1.
Right, okay.
And then you've confirmed it with the mechanical, thing. So instead of like changing lambdas and things first, you've got to look at that's a problem. You've got to fix that first. And unfortunately, this sounds like it's going to be major mechanical work needed. I mean, I looked at P0420. I looked it up, and it's possible causes is oxygen sensor ahead of the cat. It could be a valve lift fault that could be caused by solenoids. It could be the other oxygen sensor, or it could be a problem with the cat. Well, it's a bit unlikely because he's changed the cat. And I wouldn't start changing all that when he knows he's got a problem with the cylinder. He knows that, and he had a problem before he changed it to the cats and after. But it is worth noting that these cars are really on the limit anyway with a proper MOT test of it, even when they're standard. So you've got to get them quite hot to get it through, on that with that. And but being 2 bar down on cylinder 1 is like a serious issue.
Yeah. Sorry to hear that, Mike, to be honest, but that's where we've gone from that. Arthur Automotive, I've seen you've just popped a comment on there which relates to the headlights, so we'll just share that with people. Morit Moto just released upgraded headlights for the 997.2 in the US. I upgraded my HID bulbs with Philips XV2. So look, great. It's nice for other people to pitch in here and share some information on that. So thank you, Arthur.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
So next question then, Chris, for you to cast your expertise over, is from Tim Eagle. He has a 2004 996 Carrera 4, which has now done 53,000 miles on the original clutch. In terms of the IMS issue, when I come to have the clutch replaced, would you get the IMS bearing done as well? And if so, is the EPS product the one to recommend?
There's two sides to the story. Two opinions really. I mean, I would have one that most of people wouldn't agree with, which I would say leave it alone.
I agree with you on that, to be fair.
I might have the cover off and inspect it and see if there's any play there, but that's still not going to help you if in 10,000 miles it's going to have a problem. But if it's got to that sort of mileage, it's more than likely it's not going to fail. And most of these bearings failed from the factory, like low mileage, like 20,000 miles, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Also, my reason for that answer, which isn't always a popular one, is that I've seen every other type of aftermarket bearing, including the EPS bearing, fail. So you could be introducing an issue. And I know other specialists will say the same. That is considered to be the best one on the market, I think. But the issue with the whole thing is because the bearing's fundamentally too small, the design. So halfway through this Gen 1 997, halfway through that, the Porsche did a little upgrade, did tell everyone, and made the bearing bigger.
Okay. Physically
bigger. And that's what Hartech, one of their things they do when they rebuild the engine, they machine the case and fit a bigger bearing. And then, they haven't seen any failures because of that type, really. Unless it's done like intergalactic mileage, but then the rest of the engine's worn out as well, isn't it? I mean, so that's my answer. You could try and be practical and change it, but we did one last year because it had an EPS bearing in it that had started to break up and metal had all gone around everywhere. We see very, very few failures of bearings nowadays, because I think everyone that's going to fail has failed, is my reasoning for that.
Yeah.
If your car had done 15,000 miles, I would be worried, because I'd say that's in the danger zone. It seems to follow that if it's got past that, thing keeps going on for a long time.
Yeah, definitely. So I echo those sentiments, Chris. I mean, I think I've said before on Nine Works TV that I had a friend with a 996 anniversary that had done 12,000 miles, and the IMS was already giving up. Do you know what I mean? And yet there are other cars, and in fact, one of my previous 996s that I owned had got to 6 figures of mileage, miles, obviously not kilometers, on the original IMS bearing, and I never changed it, because, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, is kind of my mantra on that. Exactly like you're saying, you could be, you know, swapping out and giving yourself a headache if you're doing that, you know.
Yeah, well, we've got a client with a 986, and it's done like 200,000 miles and it's still going. So actually good. That's what I mean. It's probably like oh God, can't believe it's still going. It just keeps going. I think, if they're looked after well and regularly serviced, change your oil regularly, it's going to help. Yeah.
It's worth pointing out as well, Chris, that you and I talk a bit more in depth about IMS and RMS as well. We did a 996 updated buyer's guide filmed this summer, obviously, because the 996 was 25 years old. We discussed that and plenty of other things to look for when buying a 996, but certainly when servicing and maintaining a 996 as well. So if you want to take a look at that, if you're watching this, just go on to the archive or the back catalogue of Nine Works TV videos and take a look. We shall move on. Next question. We've got another 996 question. It's popular among the Nine Works TV viewers and membership, which is great. Chris Swain says, I have a 1999 996 C2, which has what I expect is a fairly common fault, but to which I cannot find an easy fix. It centers on the rear wing. It raises at 75 miles an hour, as it should, but does not automatically lower again when the speed drops below the designated limit. As such, the wing stays up until the car is turned off, turned back on again, and then manually lowered via the internal switch, which is in that really annoying place right down in the footwell on a 996. I'm told the fault is with the wiring loom, but Porsche will not sell this as an individual part. And so my Porsche specialist has quoted 1,700 quid plus, I assume that's plus VAT, for an entire new rear wing and loom, which is apparently the only available fix. I think Chris is looking for a workaround to avoid having to pay out for a new wing and loom at the best part of 1,700 quid. So the wing is stuck up, Chris.
Yeah. There's a few things you could do. You could just obviously live with it, but you obviously it's annoying you. You could code it out, or you can get an adapter plug thing that goes on. So when you get like an aero kit, obviously it's got all the loom for the stuff, but if you buy a factory aero kit, you can get this thing which you plug it. You can do either or, code it out or plug this in to stop it move, coming up. But obviously I'd be concerned about the car's stability, because there's a reason for the rear wing, isn't there? But you could code it out or fit one of these things and fit a fixed wing. Like you've got a fixed wing, haven't you, on Little Irish? You could do that. It'd probably be cheaper than this like new loom situation. The other thing is, I've looked into it, and I know it's a common problem, but we actually haven't had this very much. We've only had it once, or with one customer, and he just went, I just want it fixed as cheaply as possible. So we just coded it out.
Okay.
I said, just be careful when you're going quick, so you can have less downforce that the car's designed to have. It's almost certainly, you can check this when you go on, if you put the diagnostics in, it's most likely the micro switches and the loom, which is like a top and bottom limit of the for the motor for the operating the rear spoiler or rear wing, whatever you want to call it. And I would, and you can check that. You can check that with diagnostics quite easily. And if it's one of them, I think it's on. I've had a look, and it's like on the back. I think it's on. There's like a motor with like a rack and pinion that moves the spoiler. And I think Porsche haven't made the micro switches, have they? So I would want to get them. If one's obviously got a problem, otherwise you'd pointless. But I would have thought we'd be able to get one from somewhere and wire it. That's what I'd be trying to do first, rather than chucking the kitchen sink at it. But obviously that's taking a bit of research, and just replacing everything is easy to price up. But I can't hand on heart say that it's that and that will fix it, because as I said, we haven't actually really had this delved into this before. We haven't had any issues with I know it's a problem, but weirdly we haven't had much of an issue.
Yeah.
That's what I'd be looking at first. You know, you can often get these little plugs and things if you speak to a good electrical supplier, someone like RS Components or something, because there'll probably be some code on the, you know, written on the, or part number, you know, on the micro switch. That's why I would go. Probably that would be my thoughts anyway.
Grand, yeah. All right, Chris, that's stellar. And what I would just add to that as well is if it's 1,700 quid and above, you know, plus that, you're definitely into, as you point out, you know, fixed wing, carbon fiber, CSR ductile goodness, which there's no wiring loom, so there's less to go wrong, and of course it's lighter as well. So there's a couple of plus points there, and you can fit it yourself. It's nice and easy. If that was me, I'd definitely be looking at it, but I would say that, wouldn't I? Just diving into the comments, Liam says, nice honest answer, Chris. So that's fantastic. I think that was for the do you replace the IMS for the sake of it question or not?
All right, yeah, no problem.
SGT details, highly great content. Does the changing the 996 seats to the 997 seat affect value when selling? No, I think three, and I'll just answer this very quickly. Three things you need to consider when buying a 996 or a 997 or a 986 or a 987, and that's condition, condition, condition. Don't look about how great the seats are or what seats are fitted. Just look at the service history and how well that car's been maintained. That will give you the biggest clue as to what you're going to be spending on maintaining that car over the subsequent 12 months. And as you know, it can be a never-ending process, as Chris and I are finding out with my car. Right, we'll dive back to the Porsche technical questions. And again, if you're just joining this live and you've got a technical question for Chris at Wrightune to answer, an award-winning Porsche specialist, pop them in the questions and we'll endeavour to answer them at the end of the live. Question 7 is a 986 Boxster this time, Chris. 2000 model year Boxster S with 205,000 kilometres on the clock. That's a great effort. It suffers from timing chain rattle on cold startup. Using Motul 10W40 oil. The car is used as a daily driver. Oil consumption is less than a litre per 1,000 kilometres, so that's good. I've noticed that as the oil level drops, the rattle stops and returns again when topped up. Robin Hayes says, any suggestions why?
No. really confusing. The only thing, it doesn't follow logic. I would have thought for putting more, you know, oil in, it would make it quieter, not the latter. The only other thing I would check is, unless it's overfilled, because how are you checking your oil level? Are you doing it on with the dash, you know, obviously with the electronic, because that's got a set, you know, it's a sensor, and electrical things go wrong, you know. It's got a dipstick. You're lucky, because obviously on 997s etc onwards there's no dipstick. They got rid of it, but you've got a dipstick, so you can check and just check that obviously what the dash is saying is correlating with the dipstick, because the dipstick can't lie, can it? It's a stick.
A bit dippy, but yeah, it is.
Yeah, no, that's I can't work that out. If it is reading accurately, why putting topping it up would have the latter effect. It does not follow logic. Like, yeah. It's obviously, although, you know, if it's making a racket and it's done that sort of mileage, it's getting a bit tired, like me.
You're nearly there, Chris. You're nearly there.
No, I'm all right now. I'm just a bit old, a bit worn out, Lee. You know what I mean? You'll get there, son.
You need a top up of oil, mate. Cod liver oil, maybe.
Yeah.
So penultimate question, and then we'll answer any other questions that come through in the live comments, Porsche technical questions. So this is a fantastic question, this. Gareth Orley says, is it complete insanity to contemplate rebuilding your own engine? I would say yes, personally, but you know, that's just me.
Depends how keen you are, really, doesn't it? And ability. The only thing I would say is, yeah, I don't see why not if you do your research. but I'd get a proper manual rather than going off what people have said on forums, because you could get anyone going there and write anything, aren't they?
I thought forums were always correct, always. Always.
Yeah. And then the only thing I would say is be aware that you need a lot of special tools to assemble the engine. And if you purchase them, it's going to be really expensive if you're just doing it as a one-off. So I don't know if you could borrow them. Sometimes you can rent them. I think you can rent some tools from like Design 911, I think. You'd have to just bear that in mind, because don't you go herring off at it and then realise, you need special tools for certain bits of the job. It's going to be like a false economy. You could have just paid for someone and then you'll have a warranty. But yeah, good luck.
I love it. That's good luck. It's quite ominous. Fantastic. I've seen a couple of questions come through on the comments, which is fantastic. We've got one more question that was submitted prior, and then Chris, if you've got some time to answer a couple of those from people tuning in right now, that'll be fantastic. So the last question is from David Bagnall. This is from the preempted ones, as I said. How do you get seized up drop link bolts out of a 997 or 996? David says with his car, the nut comes off easily, but actual steel bolts seized solid in an aluminium hub. I think that it's more 997, isn't it, with steel on alloy underneath?
Well, yeah, it's definitely on 997. Yeah, it's more problematic. You can have problems with 996s. Yeah, it's a steel bolt for an aluminium hub. They react with each other and they get solid. Yeah, we have a lot of fighting with them. Best thing to do really is, more commonly they are seized in there than not. Yeah, heat the hub up with like gas torch, and then so they hopefully to get it to expand, and try and tap it through with a punch and a hammer to knock it through. And or what we've done is, you need two people really, or you can't if you're like pretty good, but someone on a windy gun, impact gun, because you can basically like snap the end of the drop link off the bit that's stuck in the hub, and there is like a hexagon on there. I can't remember the size of the top of my head, and you can get like an impact deep socket on it, goes over the ball, and then you can get it moving, get it spinning. This is after you've try the heating and knocking it out first, and then so on the other side, whilst it's spinning, to hit it. We've done that before, and that's quite successful. But yeah, it's a pain.
It is, like you've said before with various videos that you and I have done on Nineworks TV, it's so difficult because of those different metals that are underneath the car. Generally with a lot there, and it can fight.
Yeah, you have a lot of problems getting suspension apart because they've got a lot of alley bushes like on the the coffin arms or lower wishbones. You've got like steel centric bolts that go through, and the same thing, they get corroded and you have to chop them out. It fights you.
Yeah,
I feel for you.
Have you? I know the cars are younger, but is there a similar sort of problem brewing with 991s?
Haven't had too many issues with them, but we haven't. Yeah, not really, but they will have the same problems. Yeah. We haven't had them yet, but I think we will. Similar coolant system like setup in terms of like steel and aluminium pipes going together as a 997, but we're only really getting lots of problems with like sort of Gen 1 997s over the last few years with all of that stuff. So I think the 991s are going to have to get a lot older before we start having major. I mean, we've got a few customers with 991s, and usually it's like relatively minor. Like Max, since we changed, his active engine mount, changed a few little bits on some of the cars, but they've generally been quite good. But I think they've been quite looked after because they've held their value well, haven't they? So people are probably spending more on them, keeping them up together. I don't know. I'm just surmising.
Well, they are younger as well, so we're waiting much of time to kind of
they're younger, and also a lot of them stayed in the dealer network as well for longer. So there's that. So we've not seen lots of them, but we have had customers. But generally speaking, we have had very little issues with them at present.
At present, yeah. Again, ominous. Chris, okay, thank you, mate. We've got a question. I'm going to start with Andy Brooks, my Nine Works podcast co-host, who's tuned in, and he says, "Who's the Wally in the hat?"
Thank you.
Abuse
nice, live on YouTube.
I thought this is what you signed up for.
Look, can you read it, Andy? Look, I thought you'd like that because you're miserable.
Fantastic. Right, we've got a couple of questions here, and this from people that have joined in live. So again, thanks for joining in on this first Nine Works Ask the Expert live series. Jonathan Hose says, "I have a 2004 996 40R, so the 40th anniversary 911. When it comes to the bore scoring fix, what options do you think is best bang for the buck? Aluminium liners with Nicosil, steel liners and ductile liners, etc." So score bores, what do you think is the most economical fix?
What, the cheapest?
Oh,
yeah. As I said, we don't do the engine, so I can't give an honest answer to that. I would just say, honestly, I'd ring Hardtech and have a discussion, to speak to a man there called Grant, and be honest and say that question. I'm sorry I can't answer that live, but we don't strip and rebuild the engine, so I can't comment really. I don't know what would be best. And they will know probably, by trial and error. They're building these things and they're in the field with them. So I would give them a call.
No, spot on, Chris. Yeah, that's a mantra I live by, is it's better to speak with authority about what you do know rather than speculate on what you don't. So, I hope everybody watching live appreciates that. So Guy says, my 2002 996 cranks really slowly, which gets worse when the car is warm. I've changed the HT cable from the back of the alternator, but there's no change. Do you have any other suggestions?
Yeah, it could just be the starter. We've had a problem as well with loom in the front from the battery. We've had that as well, and sometimes some of the loom under the car as well that goes. It's difficult to explain without showing you, but there is some loom up there that needs looking at. Sometimes it just needs a cleanup, but it's quite a common problem. But yeah, it could be the starter from the sounds of it. But yeah, I'd have a look at the loom first and then going from there. Starter, I mean, how old's the starter? If it's been changed recently, it's unlikely it's that, isn't it?
Yeah, well,
so,
yeah.
I need more input. 25.
That's stellar. That's absolutely stellar. Okay, we've got David Willis. He says, "Hi, Chris. I know how much you love 996s. What if an oil pressure sits at 1 on tick over? Should you be worried, and should it be sat at 2?
No, I wouldn't be too worried with that, but as long as that's when it's hot. If it's cold, it should shoot right up to 5.
Yeah.
If it's gone that on when it's cold, oh yeah, I'll be worried. But if it's warm, no, I wouldn't be too worried on tick over at 1.
Okay, grand, absolutely grand. The 911 Goat, greetings from Paris. Bonsoir, good sir. I hope your honeymoon with Mrs. P is going well, and thanks for joining in live. We got one from Callum Jepson. I'll call this as the last one unless there's a question that sneaks in at the last. Callum Jepson says he's got a 2002 996 C4S. Let me just try and make sense of this. Briefly shorted battery when reconnecting. PCM now won't find a station. It had blown a fuse, which was replaced, but the auto store quit straight away. Blown aerial. Do you think this is a blown aerial or a deeper issue with the PCM?
Short. Does he short? Has he connected the battery around the wrong way? How's he short? How's he short? I don't know. It sounds like something. Yeah, it might have. We've had it cause major dramas in the past, things like that. Customers doing stuff like that with their cars. Difficult. I'd have to look at it. I'd probably want to plug in the diagnostics, have a look, do some further investigation. If it has damaged the PCM, well, that they can often be repaired. Send them off to like, you know, or take it to a car audio place, but we send them off. I'd have to do further investigation of the vehicle itself to see exactly sort of what damage has been done, because it can cause an awful lot of havoc. But you're lucky if it has just damaged the PCM.
Oof, yeah, okay, all right, thank you for that. Yeah, I've got one more then, Chris, and you know, we do appreciate your time, particularly after hours, so thank you.
That's all right.
It comes from the Bangkok Baller, apparently, that's a great name, by the way. I wish my YouTube channel was called that. He says, hi guys, I have a 2002 996 Gen 2 Cabriolet. The hood has just stopped working and will not go down. The clamshell retracts and the side flaps operate, but after that, nothing else moves. Any clues?
Yeah, it might be that there's a micro switch at the where it all sort of connects up. But when the hood comes over, and then as you're sat in the car and you look up into the middle, there is a micro switch where like a clamp clasp, and it all connects up and then it tightens itself down. There is a micro switch in there that is pretty common to fail. You can sometimes get in there, jiggle it, and you might just get it. But I'd say leave obviously the roof in the up position. You don't want to be trying to open it. And then obviously car get full up with water. But that's where I would start looking. There is sometimes you can very occasionally have issues with like other micro switches. I can't quite remember. There could be something else, but I can't quite remember. I would be looking at that first. It's nearly 9 times out of 10 it's to do with that micro switch.
Brilliant. Okay.
I'd have to look at the manual, but I think in the past we've had a problem with the gearbox, which is basically like the motor causing issues.
Yeah.
The other thing as well that you could check is that they have fluid. They have like their own hydraulic fluid system basically for the roof. Check I don't know where it goes, but they get low. You need to make sure it's got the right amount of fluid in it. But I would start looking at the micro switch first. That'd be the first port of call.
Yeah.
For doing weird things like that.
Chris, that's great. And, you know, I appreciate that. We've thrown some questions at you live with kind of no prep. So that's your expertise shining through there. So thank you for that, good sir. Guy Feltham says, evening chaps, thanks for the live. Mr. Feltham, that's absolutely our pleasure. Callum, so that was with the PCM problem. Callum says, thanks for that. The rest of the car is fine. It just won't find a station. I'll see about sending off. He does have
maybe it's something to do with the aerial. I don't know. I don't know. We'd have to have a look or send it off.
Yeah, fantastic. And Bangkok Baller says thanks for the advice on the 911 cab as well. So thanks for that.
That's all right.
That is it. I mean, it's brilliant to demonstrate your knowledge and expertise and get these questions from Nineworks members answered. You know, we all love these cars and we all drive them. They are the gift that keeps on giving, because as many, you know, smiles for miles they give, they also ensure that we keep coming to see you guys all the time for little bits and pieces. I know my 996, I'm tempted to rename it Trigger's Broom with the amount of new parts that tend to go on it all the time. So it's it's a love-hate relationship sometimes. Look, it's worth pointing out to people watching this live as well that Chris has done some written columns for us, Ask the Expert, and it's all on the nineworks.co.uk website. Click on the editorial tab. There's bits and pieces on there about brakes, FAQs, oil leaks, particularly on 964s, things to look for when buying a 986 Boxster and a 987 Boxster. And obviously you and I, Chris, have done various YouTube videos, but majority are 996 related, including kind of buyer's guides. So plenty of material there to go and immerse yourself in and learn a few things. And of course, if you want to chat to Chris further, give him a call. As obviously Chris at Wrightune is the email, isn't it? Chris at Wrightune.co.uk.
Yeah, Chris at Wrightune.co.uk. Wrighttune's got one T.
Well,
don't put 2 T's because I won't get it.
Yeah.
Or you can phone us on 01491 826 911. Drop me a line anytime. Quite happy to chat. Even just a bit of advice. You know, you might be too far away that it'd be not cost effective, but sometimes people are concerned, you know, that they're being ripped off basically. So can I give you a quick bit of advice? Put your mind at rest.
Grand. Nice one, Chris. Yeah. And of course, check out wrightune.co.uk as well. So, yeah, that's it. Like I say, thanks for your expertise, Chris, and being the inaugural Ask the Expert live, and yeah, sharing your knowledge and expertise with the enthusiast community. We do really appreciate it, mate. I'll see you next week with Little Irish for some more work, and that'll obviously translate into a new video before long. And yeah, until then, thanks very much. Thanks to you for joining us, Chris. Thanks everyone at home for watching. We'll see you all again soon.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Lise. And thanks very much, everyone. And I hope everyone has a lovely Christmas. Christmas time.
Nice one, fella. Thanks all. Take care.
Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.